Hi, my name is Bill McCamley. I'm the Executive Director of Transit Forward. We are an Austin-based nonprofit whose mission is to educate and engage the people of our great community about transit in general, but with a real focus on Project Connect. And today we're here with Mark Jacob, who is the president of Juiceland. And Juiceland has a shop right here on Guadalupe, which is going to be part of the new light rail system that Project Connect is developing to help people get around the town safer, faster, and bring us more close. And so talking with Mark, it's a great opportunity to be here. Thank you so much for meeting with us today.
I enjoy being here. Thank you.
So first off, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, where you're from, what you did before you were here, how long you've been in Austin for?
Sure. I've had a great opportunity to live in Texas most of my life. So I say I'm from Texas, even though I was born in Kansas, but I spent all of my younger years in Texas. We got married here, have both of my sons here. All of them were born out in East Texas in Nacogdoches. And then we moved all over the place because I chose to join Starbucks Coffee after I had worked in the retail grocery industry. Joined Starbucks Coffee and spent about 15 years there. Had the opportunity to work all across the US and Canada during that time frame, and just really loved what the opportunities that came towards us and the ability to move around the country. I have two sons. Me and my wife have two sons, a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old. So, lots going on in that capacity, one that just entered college and one that just entered high school. And then outside of that, just kind of avid lover of all things outdoors and all things Austin. And we got the chance to move back to Texas, and for the first time in Austin, about 3 years ago. So we've been here now for a little while, and had the opportunity to work for a couple of great brands here, and I've really enjoyed being able to settle in with Juiceland.
And why'd you guys decide to come back here to Austin?
Me and my wife always wanted to get back to Texas. I feel like, I don't know how else to say it. Once you're part of Texas, it's hard to, there's something about it. You just want to get back. I don't know anybody that's left that for the most part, it's not like they don't miss something about it. But we always wanted to get to Austin. So living out in East Texas, we loved East Texas. There was a lot to it, but we wanted the opportunity to be in hill country. We lived in Denver, Colorado for a while, and Austin feels kind of like the best of all of those worlds combined. You get some of the beautiful hills, some of the beautiful scenery, all of that you would think of from a Denver, Colorado. Maybe not quite as tall, but all of those beautiful outdoor things that you have, but also just the environment, the temperature, the climate that Texas brings. Right now, it's harder to enjoy that a little bit because of how hot it's been, but I still greatly appreciate it. It's something I love most about it.
So we're really fascinated to hear about your experience with Starbucks, not the job per se, but how you interacted when light rail went through a lot of the regions you were in charge of with Starbucks stores, both in Boston and Denver.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened, what it looked like, what it meant to y'all?
Oh, absolutely. I would say there's a variety of things that I could probably talk to from that aspect. Some of the biggest benefits that I saw from an employer standpoint, not even necessarily to discuss my own personal feelings, where one of them was really the access to things such as transportation to work. The larger these cities get, the more congested they get. The amount of time people can spend just in transit can be very difficult, not to mention very costly. So the opportunity to have a lower cost option to get in and out of work really made a big impact for many of the crew members that we had working for us. Not to mention people that could choose to live closer to the light rail on some of the southern parts of the city, especially if they were more financially affordable. Yeah. And typically the suburbs are a bit more financially affordable than some of the more downtown markets, but then they had an easy access to commute in. So from an employment standpoint, it really gives people the opportunity to be able to maximize their time, maximize their life, even maximize their safety. When you think about worldwide, there's more than 3,000 deaths per day in car accidents. And it's the number one cause of death typically for youth. And as someone who is a dad with two teenagers, both of which one is fully driving and one who is now permitted, which is scary all on its own right, it's something I think about regularly. But to kind of circle back to the employment standpoint, some of the other big benefits was even parking. When we thought about new locations and places we were going to go into, obviously a large parking lot is a large expense. All of those square footage, everything makes a difference. And the ability to be able to not necessarily need as many parking spots when crew had made decisions to travel on the light rail, as well as for our customers not needing as much spots, it allowed us to go into spaces we didn't think were viable before. So we were able to serve different communities that in the past we may have not been able to serve. We were able to provide different venues and formats based upon what the real space would need versus the cars alone. Outside of kind of the parking aspect, which was great for both crew and customers, some of the aspect of them being able to transition back in and out of work, as I said before, it's just a lower cost option for many of them. And then even for people like me that were office people or field leaders that would go from different stores, different offices, the ability to be able to work on my laptop and do the work that I needed to do while I was in transit versus just sitting in traffic for an hour.
So wait, hold on. As a manager, you actually took the train when you visited different
Oh,
stores?
absolutely.
Nice.
Now, not always, some markets it didn't go to, but as much as I could, it allowed me a much higher ability to get work done, higher productivity. And by the time I got home, most of my administrative work was complete. So those were benefits that I would see myself as an employee. Many of the benefits that my crew would see whenever they were able to connect in and out, and not to mention the impact it made all of us feel better that cared so deeply about the environment. In the company I'm at now with Juiceland, and in my prior companies, they're all companies that are working towards doing better for the environment and knowing how much we were able to lower the impact of carbon emissions, of nitrogen, of all the other things going into the environment by lessening some of that. I also know was something that we kind of rallied behind and enjoyed even as a little bit of a camaraderie and like-mindedness in our organization. So it increased some morale from that perspective as well, because we all knew that we were trying to do something that was good for the world that we were part of.
So you talked about how good it was for your workers.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of impact did light rail have on your customer traffic in and out of your store?
There is a variety of benefits to that. So one, obviously during construction, that can be challenging at times, but outside of that brief moment in time, or even a longer gated moment in time, whenever you really get to that point of the success rate that it can have, one, it does free up more parking for the people that do choose to drive. So even the drivers benefit from the light rail.
You use a car once in a while.
Yeah.
But you have the option when you have a more available public transportation system to use that. Why would you choose to use that system?
There is so many reasons, but I'll give you the example of the difference between where I'm finding in Austin, and I love Austin, versus what I found in Denver.
Yeah.
In Denver, if I needed to go to the airport, I took the light rail. If I needed to go to any of the major events, like we shared earlier, from whether it's basketball, football, baseball, shopping, down to some of the bike and hike trails, any of that stuff, the light rail has the ability to take you there in the city of Denver. In Austin, I drive, so in Denver, I probably was in a car 20% of the time. In Austin, I'm in a car 95% of the time or more, based upon just the lack of some of that train capacity, some of the public transportation in the areas that I'm either going to or living in. And it weighs on me in the sense of someone who's environmentally conscious. I've done everything I can do in my life to try to support, reduce, recycle, reuse, especially reduce. The more I can reduce, from carrying my own water bottle around to using any kind of solar access or using anything that I can do, I try to access that. So now knowing that, and I drive about the most fuel efficient car you can get. I look forward to hopefully converting one day to an electric car. But I don't believe anything can fully replace the ability for the infrastructure around a system that allows you to do all of that in a cheaper, more efficient, more effective way.
Looking in the future with Project Connect, as the new light rail, as the new Metro Rapid lines get put into place, as someone who runs a business with locations all over the place and who is looking to expand, how do you feel about these resources going to places that you're already at And that includes a new light rail line here on the drag, where your location is here on Guadalupe, and also probably, definitely increase interactions with the red line where you already have some store locations downtown, Plaza Saltillo, that sort of area. And then moving forward, how will you, as someone who's looking at these things strategically, decide to say, hey, look, we want to place new store locations? Will we look at places near these stations, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. We would look at locations near the stations. The why behind it goes back to really the amount of customers that have access to your space, as well as the amount of ability for your crew to get to and from work on a low cost access, the ability for your driving customers to have more access to parking because not as many people are driving now and many are taking public transportation. So you get better throughput from a traffic perspective, both in foot traffic that's getting off the light rail or the transit. You can tell I lived in Denver for a long time. I always called it the light rail. Yeah. And then also just for the ability for the cars that it does open up in that, and the lack of traffic, the reduction in traffic congestion. So we will definitely look to continue to expand areas and locations that help fit and support those daily needs. Of course, there's always the construction timeline for like our current location. We recognize that's going to be disruptive. We recognize that's going to be challenging, but we see the return on investment for the long term of what's going to happen, both for our customers, our crew, and for the environment, to be blunt. So for us, we want to support that. We want to help all of the things that makes Austin special, the ability for people to afford a city like this, the ability for us to really support the future of what Austin is. And I know many of us would love to see Austin stay small, but we're all seeing it grow bigger. And this is an opportunity for us to keep some of that smaller community feel, some of that ability to move in and out of where we get to go without the massive congestion that comes with traffic.
Last question, because I know you got to get back to work, and we really appreciate your time. But just as a person who is an employer, who is a family man, who is now here and planning on staying here long term, tell us a little bit long term what Project Connect and other efforts like that to bring Austin closer together mean to you.
I would start with really what it means kind of as a family person and raising my kids. I've done everything I can do to try to support them to understand the impacts they have on the environment. We only have one Earth. So the opportunity for them to recognize that taking public transportation can reduce that carbon footprint. Doing things like that can also enhance other areas of your life, such as productivity that I spoke to earlier. Just your ability to be able to work and do things during your commute versus you needing to drive. And then one of the things that it excites me most about is if you look at the amount of severe accidents and deaths that happen in cars, it probably is more than 100 times that of what might happen in a public transportation system.
18 times, I think.
18 times,
yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know that.
That's still big.
But with that, so to keep my family safer, to keep my boys the ability to be more productive and support the environment, that's what I'd want to do. From an employer perspective, I believe giving people the opportunity to participate in that is also a great go forward. It allows, as I've said, lower cost ability to commute in and out of work, a better ability to be able to lower the impact on the environment, a better ability to even help those that do choose to continue to drive their cars more regularly by reducing the congestion across the city. I don't see it being anything but a win-win-win with, yes, I recognize as an employer the upfront slight pain that we're going to have during the construction work that's going to happen across that. But for me, long-term future is well worth what's going to happen in the short term.
Mark, thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate your perspective, both in your current position and also giving us some of your experiences working in the past. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.